Have you faced some big challenges in your life? You are not alone. Being inspired by others who have faced similar challenges is what helps shine light on your path. And here are those stories. Hi, I'm Greg Crawford, and welcome to the Challenge to Triumph Show. We're back. We're back at the Challenge to Triumph Show. I'm here with a very special guest. I happen to know this guy a long time, even though he doesn't know me a long time. I've been following him for a long time, and I like to call him, he's my quiet mentor, meaning like he's mentored me, but he doesn't even realize it. This guy is probably one of the most well-rounded entrepreneurs I've seen as far as a business mentor goes. He's done a movie. He's in the personal development space, the fitness space. He's got a certification company. He's a speaker, investor. He's got a mastermind in his penthouse in Las Vegas. I mean, this guy has a lot going on, and he's pretty much turned the idea of just focusing on one thing upside down on its head, which I kind of appreciate because I could just never grasp just doing one thing for some reason. And I look at his name is John Spencer Ellis. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually have a few things to say about focusing on the one thing, because it is really, really important. But yet it's a challenge for a lot of us entrepreneurs who tend to be ADD and a little scattered. So it's important, yet it's tough. And yet you need diversity in your interest and your education, formal and informal. But, you do have to circle back to what's most important. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to note, John, is, being around a lot of business mentors and so-called gurus, I guess you could call it. One thing I really appreciate about you, John, is you're very down to earth and a humble guy,
Thank you. Thank you. You know what? I went through a time in my late 20s, early 30s where, when I started having success, and then I was doing a lot of TV and all that kind of stuff, and people treated me differently because of that. They shouldn't have, but it happened. And then I went, off the rails for a bit, which is unfortunate. And I'm just telling you the truth. And I've fortunately come full circle from that.
Well, that's the premise of the show, is we want to get down to the truth, and even some of the ugly truth, and uncover how you came about where you are today. So the first question, John, I like to ask is,
okay,
if you could give me like one person and one book that had a big influence on where you are today.
Oh, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind from T. Harv Eker was a major influence for me.
Second person to mention that book.
I'm the second person to mention it?
Yep, on the show, yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, Harv was actually in my movie. That's how we became friends, but I was familiar with his book prior to that. And that's how, and then we had some mutual friends that said, hey, you should talk to Harv, and he's a good guy and all this. And he is a good guy, and he's super smart. And so, yeah, his book, it's just the way to perceive wealth, and people who have wealth, and acquiring wealth, and maintaining and growing wealth, and protecting wealth, all those things. He's just brilliant. And then ironically, we were talking about, focusing and doing one thing rather than a lot of things. One of the things that has helped me regain that focus that's necessary is the book, The One Thing.
That's funny.
So, yeah, and it's important. And things take time. You have to stay the course. And I get bored, I get distracted, and that's not good. It's not optimal. And I'm just telling you the truth. And so when I'm able to refocus as close to 100% as possible, that's when the real magic happens. And that's when I get the best results that I really want and need.
So it's kind of like, implementing that philosophy of focusing on the one thing until it builds enough momentum where you can focus on other things.
Yeah, you have to build a team that can maintain and grow that one thing. But as a leader of your company, you need to be the person who's cutting edge, looking at trends, analyzing data, making new friendships, going to masterminds and meetings and seminars and workshops and retreats, and just staying up to those cocktail parties where the real relationships actually are formed.
Right.
And sometimes you're like, man, after the end of the day, you're like, I'm done. I'm cooked. I don't want to do anymore. But it's those relationships that are built on situations like that really make a big difference.
So John, there's a lot of people listening to this podcast that are seeing where you're at. You've reached a level of success. You got momentum going for yourself, but there's a lot of people that are struggling. They want to get to maybe a quarter to where you are right now. So I know you weren't always at the top. So let's go back to where maybe you were that person listening to this podcast, to your successful self now.
Okay. So how do you want me to approach it? I just want to make sure I understand you correctly.
So when you were up and coming and you knew you wanted to build these companies that you've built,
okay,
but you weren't there yet. Can you take us back to like maybe a time where you were maybe struggling and facing like a big challenge?
Well, I remember being very, very young and just starting out. And what I said to myself, probably quietly and aloud, and also to others that I trusted, is that I said, I wish I just need someone to believe in me, to give me a break. And what I realized is that I just needed to believe more in myself. And it helps when someone believes in you who has resources or talents or funding or whatever, right? I mean, that's definitely going to help. There's no question. But
so was there a point where you didn't believe in yourself?
There's times when it probably still happens at times if we're really honest about it. I do have a strong sense of self and belief in myself. And there are times when it weans though. And for anyone, when that happens, I believe that it is when we lack the knowledge necessary to take the next steps. And so basically, how do you overcome that lack of self-confidence is through education. I mean, really, that's it. When you can educate yourself to the point where you feel confident and secure in the decisions that you did make or will make, it allows you to move forward faster with more confidence and, with a sense of self-efficacy that, you're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. But anytime I've ever talked to anyone at all about this topic and they are lacking self-confidence, or lacking the results they want, it's in some way related to lack of self-confidence. And I have found that most often that's related to not having the skills necessary to make the bold moves that are necessary. And so to overcome that, you just become more well-versed in whatever it is that you need to do next. And then you overcome much of the challenges. It's that simple.
So really, like, gaining your confidence is about pushing your limits so that it forces you to overcome maybe what you weren't confident about. So it builds it up.
Well, and that's why sports competition is so important for entrepreneurs as well, regardless of what level you do or what sport you do. Just learning, strategy, confidence, game plans, staying calm under pressure, all those things are so, so important. And that translates into business, very smoothly.
How about failures?
It happens every day. I actually just yesterday had to stop something that wasn't working for my company. And I looked at the numbers from accounting and it wasn't working. And so rather than belabor it and whine and complain and moan and be upset, I talked to my COO and literally in 5 minutes, we developed a completely different game plan and just went forward because, you can't wait. You can't meander. We already knew what was going wrong, but we also knew what was going right. So we just got rid of what was going wrong and then keep going.
Just focus on what's going right.
Yeah, but I mean, literally it just happened yesterday. And like a gross revenue on something was going down, although the net revenue was going up, which is good. It means we're more profitable, but it wasn't generating as much gross revenue. So that particular initiative just got canned immediately. It just didn't work.
That's interesting.
So you just, move on. Don't whine. Don't complain. Just move on.
Move on to the next.
Make the fix and move on.
Right. So that's pretty much, has that been your philosophy your whole life?
No, but as soon as it became my philosophy, I did better.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, when I was a kid, no, I took everything to heart, and I was much more critical and sensitive about stuff, and like, oh man, they don't like me, or this is bad, and I have to, dwell on I mean, that's just stupid. I mean, now I just realize, oh my gosh, as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
you either you learn through observation or through whatever, parents or whatever. But I mean, basically, that old strategy when I was a kid or very, early 20s or teens or whatever. I mean, today, if I was that person today, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I mean, you have to be aware of the mistakes. You have to understand the mistakes. You have to learn from the mistakes. But people say, it's not a mistake. It's a learning lesson. It's still a mistake. But you can learn from a mistake. But who gives a crap about semantics? Like, if it's a mistake, It's a mistake. So what? You made a mistake. Who cares? Move on. Don't whine. Just understand it. Take the lesson. Forget everything else. Move on.
Right. It makes you smarter and makes you make better decisions.
That's right. More resilient. And the more times that you go through that, the easier it is each time. And so I just don't allow myself to get really upset about that kind of stuff. I mean, like when I saw this, I'm like, wow, that is not working. Okay, well, let's stop that immediately. Even though our net profit went up like 40%, which is awesome, the gross revenue for that particular initiative went down. And so we needed the gross revenue to go up at least somewhat proportional to the net revenue. And I'm not going to get into all the details, but basically the numbers just didn't make sense. And so we stopped. But you can't just go and freak out and be upset and carry it forward. Some people would like to think about stuff too long, way too long. And think about something you were really upset about, I don't know, like a year ago. And I mean, just pause for a minute. And I'm talking about to you and the listeners. Think about something you were upset about that long ago. Does it even matter now at all? I mean, at all? Does it matter? I'm going to guess no. Then why would you ever allow that to, inhibit your progress in life or anything? It just doesn't make any sense.
To allow it to keep festering and
just let it go and just move on and just put it behind you. I mean, and that's the way that I've been able to move forward with a lot of things I've done in life. What happens is, and this, I would imagine this goes for most entrepreneurs who have been in the trenches, as long as I have or longer. And that is that people see a lot of the good and they see a lot of the cool stuff, but they don't always see the things that failed because it's swept under the rug quickly. But there definitely have been failures. I mean, there's no question there have been failures. And that's just the way it is, and
the difference is you sweep it under the rug right away.
Well, it's like I sweep it under the rug because like it's not good for business, but also like it's not going to help me any. So if it doesn't help me, then I'm just going to be done with it. I close it down, shut it down, turn off the links, turn off the advertising campaign, change the language of it. It didn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work. It's okay.
Got to keep problem solving.
Always.
That's really what life is about, problem solving.
From one to the next. and from an entrepreneurial perspective, when you can identify a very big problem that a lot of people have and you can create the best possible solution, you have a winning company.
Solving big problems.
Solving big problems for a lot of people, or a common problem for a lot of people, is a very secure way for you to grow a company. If you can, the more problems you can solve, the better you'll do, because if a lot of people have, they're not alone, but they all want the same solution.
How do you stand out by being the problem solver? How do you stand out if there's, thousands of other companies solving the same problem? How do
Well,
you?
I'll give you an example. Uber. The problem was transportation that's affordable. How do you stand out?
Mhm.
You become the largest transportation company in the world and you don't even own a car. That's how you stand out. You do something so profoundly different that people have to notice.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's it. You have to you do something so extraordinary that it's undeniable that you're the rock star. But other people solve transportation problems, but no one has done it in such a unique way that is so profoundly different and disrupts the status quo. And I mean, there's many reasons why it works. They have good funding, they have good technology, good leadership. There's numerous reasons why Uber is a ridiculous success.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is just the new sharing economy, collaboration economy, tech economy. It's all, it's a hybrid of all these different things. And also what they did is they did trend stacking. So one trend was sharing in the economy. The other things were apps that solve big problems. So they stacked trends of apps that help people and transportation challenges that people have. And I'm sure there's some other trends in there that are stacking as well. But when you can do that in the right way, you can have a major, major impact.
John, what was your first business you started?
Going back to when I was a kid, I painted the address number on the curbs for people's homes.
Really?
Yeah.
That was a business? Wow.
Yeah, I did that when I was, I don't know, before I could drive a car, long time ago. That's so funny. And someone's asking me about it. And I trimmed hedges and I detailed cars. And let me think, what else did I do? I was a paper boy. Almost all successful entrepreneurs I know had a paper route. And it has nothing to do with what having a paper route teaches you other than discipline of getting up early and hustling. I mean, really, I think that's the big takeaway.
Right.
Being willing to do things that most people aren't willing to do.
Exactly. Well, John, I know you're pressed on time today. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Sure. Well, I'm more than happy to help anyone that in any way I can. If I were to give just a synopsis of
yes, please,
how to make things work when you feel stuck.
Yep.
Is to absolutely disengage from people who don't care about you. Disengage from people who say you can't or you shouldn't or that's frightening or that's scary or that won't work or whatever. Now, if someone has already been in your industry that you're in for 20 years and they're saying that is absolutely a bad idea, then you need to heed that advice. But if it's family members or friends who are not entrepreneurial, who are scarcity minded, who have a lack mentality, who do not think in terms of abundance, and they're trying to give you advice about how to flourish, run away. Simply because they're scared and they want to have transference of their horrible emotions on you doesn't mean that you have to sit there and listen to it.
Right.
So, and that's also why you need to go to masterminds and coaching programs and seminars and have a mentor. And you have to do those things. It's imperative to your success and you owe it to yourself. And it's the fastest way to shortcut success as well. I have a coach for absolutely everything I want to do in my life. Anything and everything I want to do, need to do that will enhance my life personally, professionally, financially, whatever way. I always hire a coach so I can shortcut my path to success so I can enjoy the success longer.
Totally. I totally believe in that too. Especially getting around people and masterminding. I mean, there's nothing like physically being around other like-minded, successful people.
It's very inspiring, and it just lets you know you have a long way to go. Because if you're always around people who don't demand a lot of themselves, then it's very easy to be the smartest person in the room, and that's not a good place to be. I know it may make people feel good if they're like the top dog in the room, but ultimately you're going to grow much less. So I prefer to be the person in the room who has the most to learn. And that's why you have to keep elevating your circle of excellence that you're with all the time, and constantly up-leveling your social influence, your social circle, your group of mentors, the people you aspire to be with, the educational programs you complete, the TED Talks you listen to. I mean, literally everything. It's always what's next, what's the better thing, what will take me to the next point. And if you're not constantly asking yourself questions like that, your competition is, and you will get crushed like a bug. It's just the way it works.
And I know you're fostering that environment with your Penthouse Mastermind.
I do. There's definitely a qualification process to be a part of the Penthouse group. And it's because we want people to contribute. It's not an extraction. Everyone has to be able to contribute value in one way or another.
Sure.
They have to. Very important.
Collaborate. They have to collaborate instead of.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not a unilateral dissemination of information. It's not a monologue, it's a dialogue. And so there has to be reciprocity.
So in order for that to happen, do you look to draw from different industries so that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. People get too caught up and they get groupthink and everything else being in one industry one time with the same people over and over. And then everyone goes, yeah, this is what I do for Facebook, and this is what I do on Twitter, and this is what I did, for a speaking gig, whatever. I like learning from people in completely different industries, and then you say, wow, first of all, that might be a good industry to go into because they're not doing X, Y, and Z, because I have a completely different perspective and experience that I could take to that new market. The other thing is that you just want to learn from people who have done things differently, believe things differently. Like my COO and I have completely different perspectives on almost everything for our company, and that's good, because then we have the checks and balances that are necessary to ensure our success over time.
Right. Well, I hope to be a part of the Penthouse one day.
I would love to have you there. That'd be awesome. I'm going to have an update on that soon, so I'll keep you posted.
All right, awesome. So where can we leave off with you, John? Where can people find you? What do you have coming up next that you want to talk about?
I'm working on a new book, but I can't reveal the title yet.
All right.
And I have a lot of different ways I can help people in all training and coaching and entrepreneurial spaces. And they can just come to my website and get on my email list, because I have a bunch of great free training. JohnSpencerEllis.com. If they want my mega program, Online Expert Empire, it's onlineexpertempire.com. It teaches you how to take your passion or your hobby, no matter what it is, and turn it into a 6 or 7 figure business online.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want that?
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's awesome.
All right, John. I'm so appreciative of you being on the show, and I'll definitely be in touch and look forward to keeping up with what you got going on, and look out for your book that's coming out.
Yeah, thank you. I'll let you know about it as soon as possible.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, if you love the show, make sure to keep following us on iTunes. It's the Challenge to Triumph show. And also head over to challenge2triumph.com and, follow the journey. Stay a part of the journey. I'll be sending you some really valuable emails and keeping you up to date with who the next guest will be on. So let's stay connected. And if you got a lot of value out of this show, please go over to iTunes and leave a positive review. It would really help boost the show. And thank you so much for listening. Take care.